So I decided to go a different route for a little bit. And I find myself telling people stories, and sometimes they look at me like, yeah, it's a lie, you know? And I try to tell them, I said, look, if I tell you a story, I swear it's the truth. I don't know any stories that I could tell you that are lies like the truth. You always remember the truth, and that's why I always remember these stories the best. So I was thinking to myself, what better than to share some of these stories, because they are a little crazy, they're a little wild, there's things I've seen and done that most of you never have. I've been all over. When I say all over, to me is I've lived in Florida and everywhere from there all the way up into Pennsylvania. The furthest I've ever traveled up north, I went to Maine. I went to Maine one time. The furthest down south is Florida. But anyway, so this is when we're living in Daytona. And if you've never been to Daytona, then you don't know what I'm talking about. But the crime is crazy in Daytona. They don't tell you about it because they don't want you to know about it. They don't want the tourists to come up there and think they're going to get robbed. But other than getting followed from the airports and rental cars and getting robbed in your car by people, I'm not going to say who, or the fact that they kick in your hotel rooms when they watch you go in there when you get there, there's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of stealing. Case in point, now a lot of that stealing I'm talking about wasn't from the ones that I'm going to talk about now. The ones I'm talking about today will be what they called transients. And what these were basically homeless people. But in Florida, it's different to being homeless in Florida than it is anywhere else. I mean, you have your outside bathhouses, which is public convenient, you know. You have outdoor parks and stuff where you can sleep up under the stars at night, you know, with the roof over your head and stuff. There's soup kitchens all over Daytona. I mean, you could really have it made. And if you did a little work for a little money, you could really have it made. I mean, it wasn't bad. So me and my girlfriend lived there for about a year. And this story centers around her and her bicycle. The case in point, we lived on a sailboat for a few months. And while we were there, a lady had given my ex a old rusted out beach cruiser bike that was put up against the bike rack over there. And I had a bike that I'd put together. I had to find like 3 different stolen bikes from here and over there, and wheels and tires, putting it all together. I had a bike. So we rode a lot. I didn't drive much because everything was flat. You could ride, and I rode all the time. So there was this just to get you to understand how bad it is out here. There was one, I used to fish the Halifax River all the time, and I would ride my bike. I had a bucket with my cast net in it. I could keep mullet in there. I had my fishing rod and my pouch that I had all my fishing equipment, and I would ride around. Well, this one day, I came back from fishing. I came up to my apartment, which was 2 apartments here, 2 apartments upstairs, and when you walked up, you could walk right up to our front. First apartment was in the front, had a big porch right there. I pulled up there, put my bike up there, dropped my fishing rod, walked in the house a minute to say something to my girlfriend, turned around and come back outside, all my stuff was gone. Yeah. This was not a cheap fishing rod, it was not cheap stuff, but it was gone. I was like, son of a... There was a time I waded the river. I waded the river all day fishing. Came back, I had an old pair of Skechers, soaking wet, nasty smelling. I kept them on the back steps. Got up the next morning, they were gone. This bike. So one morning I took her to work. Or one day her bike disappeared. Her bike disappeared, and you know, you could tell this bike 100 miles anywhere. I knew this bike. I knew what it looked like. I knew everything about this bike. And the bike disappeared off the front porch. We got home, did something, next thing you know, the bike's gone. Just like with my stuff. I'm like, son of a bitch. So I took her to work one morning in my green and white 454 75 Chevrolet C10. That was my truck. I took her to work, dropped her off. Now when I was coming home, I passed this mall, and I passed a dude pushing the bike and another dude with a cane walking across the street. And I'm like watching, like, that's my friggin' bike. And these both homeless guys I think I'd seen one with the cane around before, because once they're there in that area. Pushing the bike across the street, and it's only a block and a half from my house, right? So I'm looking at this crap like, son of a bitch. So I turned around and came back. They walked down in front of a government building. I went down there. I come down in my truck, went in the parking lot, parked, and I came across the street, and I walked right up on him. I said, dude, that's my bike. Old homeless boy looked like he just got out of prison, you know what I mean? Most likely he did, but he's like, no, this is my bike. I said, dude, this is my girl's bike. It got stolen yesterday. I want my bike back. Oh, no, my girl gave me this bike. And I'm like, dude, whatever, man. Come on, let me have my bike. Everything be good. He's like, no, this is mine. And this is no shit. I walked back to my truck. I reached behind my seat and grabbed this club that was about 3 foot long. And I come out, walk back across the street. I told this boy, I'm getting my bike back. The other boy that was with him with the cane, he kind of draw it back a little bit with his and everything. And I sat there and thought for a minute, Terry, what are you getting ready to do? In front of a government, like a social service building? I'm walking up on this fool with a club getting ready to beat him over a bicycle. I said, whoa. I said, look, dude, this is my bike. He's like, look, dude, this is my bike and I can prove it. And I said, prove it. He said, look, we can go down to my girlfriend's house and she'll tell you flat out that she gave me this bike. I said, is she home? He said, yeah, she's home. I said, all right. I said, we'll throw the bike in my truck. I'll give you a ride down there and we'll go find out. He says, deal. I said, fine. My ass goes across the street, gets in the truck, brings it back around, pulls up right beside him at the intersection now, When he starts to load the bike up in the back, because he's getting ready to get in front of my truck. When he starts to load that up, I reached over, hit the lock. Nobody knew it. He threw the bike in the back, and it was like Godspeed. The light turned green at the same time, and I nailed it. Let me tell you, this 75 truck I drove was the most oddball covers you ever seen. I've seen 2 in my lifetime that had the same color pattern. That's how rare it was. It was the most god-awful pea soup green and white. So it's very rare. So I'm telling you, when you see this truck, you know this truck. I left him sitting at the light, took off. I took the bike back to the house, put it in the house, went and picked my old girl up at work, brought her home, walked her in the house. She was like, my bike. And I told her the story, and she was all happy. This is the truth now. I can verify the story if I have to. After that, we took a ride to go somewhere, and when he pulled up at that light again, the one that morning when I seen him walk the bike, guess who was walking across the street? And guess who eyeballed me all the way across the street? Because I was sitting at the line, and they walked across the crosswalk right in front of me in that same truck. Me and him, eye to eye. He didn't say a word, and I told him, that's the boy that stole your bike. Isn't that a cool story?